Hola, comrades. Today we're gonna play this game. Okay. Just gonna tweet it that I'm streaming. Okay. Okay. Kinda wanna get this done quickly as possible. Oh. I guess it didn't save. Last time. Don't know what's going on. Okay, chapter 2. Okay, I guess this is it. A few days passed and the winter became even more serious. Out in the world, it was in the middle of what was called examination season. As always, the two of us were watching the television today. It's boring, isn't it? Indeed, an exchange that couldn't even be called a conversation. They were days where the two of us only meaninglessly passed the time. Speaking of which, for you, when was it? Today. I see, it's today. I hear the today that we spoke about was what she had told me before, her temporary discharge. We might not meet anymore. That's all right. Even if she were to once again return to the 7th floor just once more, was probably the limit. In that time, surely I would also be coming and going between home and this place. For the two of us, that a timing existed for us to meet again was quite unthinkable. Did you decide that which do you want to die at thing? No, not yet. I see. She nodded in a slightly lonely way. That expression was probably because she was someone going on their second temporary discharge. While I have yet to realize things, the doctor have not discussed my first temporary discharge. That reminds me, in the end, did she decide on her own answer for herself? Patter patter. Setsumi. Okay, she says Setsumi, and the arrangements are done. Coming here and speaking was some older lady. Most likely it was the girl's mother. To me, since I sitting next to her, the mother bowed her head slightly. Well, it's about time we'll get going. Are you ready? Well then excuse us. Once again giving me a small bow, the lady made to leave the place. And then she stretched out her hand to the girl that was her daughter. But the girl didn't make to leave the place. Even when her mother nugged... Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have my glasses on. I can't read. Even when her mother tugged on her hand, for some reason, she didn't make the stand from the folding chair. What's wrong, Setsumi? It hurts a bit. It hurts where? Your chest, stomach? Chest. Wait here. I'll go call the doctor now. In a rush, making a slapping sound with her gestibers, the lady ran towards the nurse's station. Left in that place was the girl still hunched over in the folding chair and me. Her condition or in progression I knew absolutely nothing about. The things that I knew were her name was Setsumi, blood type O, only the things that were on that white bracelet. However, we were residents of the 7th floor, and the least she was worse than me. Stay until the doctor comes. Want to lie down there? As I spoke, pointed to the couch. It was something that was placed in a corner of the room from before. Look, I'll support your back. It's nothing. I'm already fine. With just that reply, she quickly stood up on her own. Hey, you. Don't force yourself. Faster than I could finish quickly, she walked out into the hall. Night after the lights were put out, as always holding a book of manga, unable to sleep, I wandered around the hospital, and then, when the lights off, the pitch-dark lounge. There I found her figure. Yo, you're here again? What's wrong? Feeling bad again? While looking out the window, that was all the girl replied with. In the end, it seemed that the girl's temporary discharge had been postponed. With that, I didn't know when the next opportunity would be, but most likely the postponement was not in a few days but weeks. See, I'm just wondering, but today were you faking sickness? Well, the term faking sickness itself might have been a bit strange, since after all, we couldn't really be said to be in a normal condition. The important thing is you didn't want to go on temporary leave. I don't understand your meaning. Well, you won't have any more after, right? To that question, she remained silent and gave no reply. But before, she had repeatedly asked me which place I planned to die in, and to that I hadn't decided yet. While the girl had said she didn't like home or the 7th floor. You really don't have another place to go to, do you? If so, what about it? No, nothing. In the usual lounge, now pitch dark, as always, without even looking my way, the girl sat looking out the window. Even though it was still 11 o'clock in this place called a hospital, most of the lights were already out. This place was where ordinary and extraordinary days met. Moreover, we were residents of the 7th floor. Already we could choose nothing outside the 7th floor and home. From that dark 7th floor window, the girl continued looking out the outside world, the ordinary world. Still the buildings and houses shone brightly with light. The roads home were filled with the figures of people hurrying home. I myself had only barely realized my situation, but already I was a resident of the 7th floor, a person of the extraordinary world. Probably I was already enabled to return to that other world. The me whose time has stopped. Numerous seasons while overcast skies passed without even the need to exchange words with anyone. In the beginning, from the window, I watched lively children go to the school, people walking quickly. When I tired of that, I always watched the television. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Even if outside the window is snowing, the screen had the sun. Without cold, heat, or pain, a dream would spread before my eyes. I sought peace in imaginations. I only greatly increased my knowledge, simply accumulating more and more meaningless trivia. At some point, the things shown on the television lost their reality. Next, in books and games, and then family. Finally, even my own body. As if watching some stranger, I lost the ability to understand it as real. That was why, when I came to the 7th floor, I wasn't surprised. If I closed my eyes, always the world would disappear. That's why I thought I was fine with it. Made myself think I was fine. And soon I would be discharged a second time. The next time I come here, I might not be able to walk on my own. Even though I knew that, I felt my unresisting self to be wretched. I felt myself, who didn't even have a destination, to be ridiculous.
時間を止め、心を止め、胸に大きな傷跡を作り、それでも22年も生きてきたのに哀れだと思った。
January 19, 2005, the 7th floor. After a few days more, the cloudy days ended yesterday and the high winter sky spread wide. Surprisingly, my father came to visit. In the beginning, he had a pained look on his face. However, he said something about my insurance. At the time, my eyes weren't sad. Well, I had to talk a bit with the doctor, saying that my father went down the hall. He seemed to be heading to that place from before, the gloomy conference room. Once again, I was alone in the hospital room. With nothing to do, I stretched my hands out to the weekly magazine brought to me from the store. They were there along with the fruits and juice that he always brought when visiting, next to the basket with fruit inside, just in front of the melons that I hated. Ooh, okay. What came into view were car keys. shining silver keys. It was the coupe father was so proud of, with the interior he apparently had modified. Before I'd asked on a whim to borrow it and had been quickly turned down, it was the keys to that car, and in my pajamas chest pocket that driver's license. That day, even though it had lost its debut, I had continued to carry the license. It was proof of my once ordinary days. Clack. Silently, I grasped the keys. I just went and did it, even I didn't know the exact reason why. Simply, I just did that. It was the watching a single scene on television somewhere. Then taking the few days' worth of medicine that I had been given, I just placed them in a bag from a convenience store and headed down the hall. Slipping by the nurse's station, I quickly continued to walk towards the elevator. In my right hand, a plastic bag. In my left hand, the car keys. In my chest pocket, the license that was supposed to have lost its debut hid. In front of the lounge. The next thing that came to sight was the figure of the girl I was always watching the television. Sitting in a cheap folding chair today, she was also boredly looking at the screen. Hey, is that interesting? Does it look like it? Nope, not at all. The usual exchange. Her eyes were, as usual, seemingly looking far away. Well then, shall we go together? While showing her the car key in my hand, I continued speaking. I also don't like home. I also don't like the 7th floor. So, shall we go together? With that word, the girl stood up from the folding chair. Lightly, her long hair swayed and brushed the tip of my nose. And so the girl also packed a few days' worth of medicine into a plastic bag. Then the two of us placed the 7th floor behind us. I turned off the boring television. The shrilly laugh voice of the host was silenced. The two of us in pajamas got on the elevator and descended from the highest floor to the first. When we came to the first floor, instead of the entrance for emergencies, normal admittance, and discharges, we deliberately left from the outpatient entrance and headed to the parking lot. Whoosh. The moment we left the building, a cold winter blast struck us in the face. It was the parking lot with few obstructions. The wind felt even stronger. Together, while peeling around cautiously, we walked around the parking lot. Then, after searching for a while, we finally found Dad's car. A silver coupe. The car Dad was so proud of that he even changed the interior. Quickly, I inserted the keys and opened the door. Hey, you can't get in. Alright. I sank myself into the deep driver's seat. For the girl in the passenger seat, because of her height, even if she sat normally, it was difficult for her to see the front. Next, I put the key in my hand into the ignition. As I turned it, stepped onto the accelerator. It was all exactly like the training center had taught. In moments, the sound of the engine reverberated in the interior. After that release of the parking brake, I just let go of the clutch. With this, we can go anytime. Should be able to go anywhere. Well, here we go. The girl gave a small nod, and in response, I shifted into second gear, and quietly the car set off. And the chassis rattled from the unfamiliar clutch. Slowly it went on. It's shaky, isn't it? It's the first time in this car after all. And while we were on the subject, it's the first time driving since getting my license. Eventually, it appeared before us, the hospital parking lot exit. Just beyond it was a large road. I pulled the car out of the lightless intersection. Honk, honk. From behind came the sound of the car horns blaring at us as we suddenly pulled into the lane. The unfamiliar clutch ground when the gears shifted while the silver coupe ran it in fits and starts. Perhaps the cars behind were especially angry. It didn't seem like they would stop honking for a while. Even so, without paying them any particular mind, I drove. The feeling of reality was somehow thin. Hey, you. Are you afraid? Being afraid would be better? No, not really. Still morning, the sun was high. Looking beyond the windshield, the January winter sky was painted so blue, it somehow felt sorrowful. It wasn't like we had a destination. That day, under the winter sky, the car swayed with the unfamiliar clutch. That day in our pajamas, the two of us aimed for the national road. That winter day. January 19, 2005, Ibaraki Mido Highway. Around when that so very high sun was turning orange. We continued to drive. Simply at random, the car continued running. And then when the area turned into an unfamiliar place, I'm stopping for a bit. Finally, I brought the car to a stop. Outside the city area by the roadside somewhere, a lonely place that didn't seem to have much traffic. Stopping the car in place I didn't even know the name of, I started inspecting the interior. If there were things that would even be the slightest bit useful, we had rushed out without any preparation, but I could see that we would be in trouble very soon. While thinking about that, first I searched the dashboard in front of me. There really isn't much, is there? Just a few hundred yen worth of what appeared to be change from the expressways. The rest were just a few books, a manga, and a disposable camera. It wasn't like we had a destination, but it seemed that the navigation system installed in the car was broken too. And also the amount of money I had was about 8,000 yen. While leaving, I had hurriedly stuffed my life savings into my pocket. With that and adding in the change in front of me, I could barely make 9,000 yen. Of course, it wasn't like I had been expecting to find anything in the car from the start. But with this budget, we'd probably be in trouble really soon. I could definitely believe we couldn't find decent lodging. Even saying that, I doubt the girl had any money. Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. Oh, well, it didn't matter. I should have known this from the start. To begin with, it wasn't like we had thought of arrangements or plans before acting. Instead of that, right now I wanted to move. I didn't want to sit still. Under the now darkening sky, once again the silver coupe ran. By the way, are you hungry? As I drove, I spoke to the one sitting next to me, thinking about it. We hadn't eaten since this morning. For now, let's go to the convenience store. No. Hey, don't be so picky. And compared to the seventh floor food, it absolutely has to be better. At my words, the girl returned silence. Those downcast eyes, their line of sight was on the pink pajamas that she wore. Now that you say that's right. As I spoke, I looked down at my own clothes. Certainly, in these pajamas, wherever she went, we'd stand out too much. It wasn't like it was fine inside the car either, but in any case, we had to do something about these clothes. Making that decision, I turned the wheel from the main road and headed into town. After running a while, the place that we came to was some street I didn't know the name of. Surely it must be near some station, since it was a street where about that number of people could be seen. In a place like this, you'd think there'd be one. While glancing around the area searching, I moved the car on slightly, raising my body in the seat while driving. Found one. In a short while, I spotted a coin-operated laundromat. It appeared quite run down and was in the first floor of a small apartment building. This place might be perfect. A short distance away from the entrance, I parked the car. Alright, just wait a bit. Leaving the girl who was making a puzzled face, I headed to the coin-op laundromat on foot. Just past the automatic doors, my nose picked up the scent of bleach and detergent. Inside it was a rundown as the exterior, filled with old washing machines and dryers. There is no one around. I muttered those words in the empty shop. They're raising a low sound while spinning with a single unit in use. Quietly approaching the machine, I started to check the timer. It looked like 200 yen had been inserted and it was set for 30 minutes. Also, it had been going on for only 5 minutes. Most likely, until it was about done, the person was passing time somewhere. With that deduction, once again from the entrance, I looked around for someone that seemed like that sort of person. Then, making sure that no one was inside, I placed my hand on that revolving dryer's door and suddenly opened it. Opening in the middle of the drying cycle, the machine was forced into a stop temporarily. Ignoring the blast of heat and damp air, I took out a mass of half-dry clothing from the inside. Then carrying it just like that in both hands, I looked around once more, but I put the shop behind me. Seeing both of my hands filled with laundry, the girl raised a bit. I have a surprised voice. However, paying no heed to that, I threw them into the back seat. Well, we're going. With one hand on the wheel, I eyed the pile of laundry I had thrown in the back. At a glance it was all flashy-looking jeans and sweatshirts. All the sizes seemed to be on the large side. They were still wet, but inside the car with the heat from the vents, it'd probably dry soon. Later change into something you like. For those words also came no particular reply. She simply looked at the pile of laundry. Well, what else could we do?
分かってるわよ。
Even for me, it wasn't like I did this because I liked it. The money that we held wasn't like we were sent in an errand with it. However, with what we had on hand now, buying new clothes would have been a tight situation. When the face of the moon really came out and we had driven for a while, I stopped the car near some park somewhere. It was most likely some kind of children's park. I tucked in the middle of the residential neighborhood. In the middle of that, I began to search through the clothes stolen earlier. Most likely because of the heating in the car, the laundry was totally... I think it said it looked totally dry. Looks like it was really all guy stuff. Exactly as I had glanced at them, it was all gaudy jeans and sweats. Most likely it was someone about my age and size-wise, something close. And then while sitting in the driver's seat, I grabbed a pair of suitable jeans and sweatshirt and started to change. Hey, you should change into something too. They're all too big.
大きすぎ。
Then you're going to always be in pajamas? Alright, with a reluctant reply, the girl took hold of a pair of jeans and opened the door. Hey, where are you going?
着替えてくる。
With just the answer, she began walking towards the restroom that could be seen in the park just ahead. Hey there, that was quick. In moments, the girl returned. The pink pajamas that she had been wearing up until now was in her hand, and she had changed her into jeans that was a white sweatshirt. Well, it's good that you managed to put something on. There was no reply. It was something I saw coming. The size was too much and draped rather heavily on her. Since the jeans were too long, the legs were rolled up a number of times, while the top sweatshirt was in the same way folded over. The pajamas were better.
よかった。
Well, don't say that. It's a bit warmer this way. At my word, she gave me just the slightest dissatisfied look. I guess something more feminine would have been better.
別に。
Not particularly, the girl's usual response. But even though I had thought she was dissatisfied with the poofy sweatshirt, soon she returned to being expressionless. Zah! Suddenly it started raining. As if I had forgotten how to stop, rain spilled from the cold January sky. Looking from inside the car, countless raindrops on the windshield. One by one they would grow too big to stick. A number would gather, overflow, and turn into a rivulet. Then, while flowing down, they would involve other rivulets and flow even more. The two of us just sat gazing at that sort of rain from inside the car. In some parking lot somewhere, a lonely place in the mountains. Having finished shopping at a convenience store, we were spending the night. On the menu of each night, 2 nigiri, 500 ml of pokari, and half of an order of fries. It's been a while since having this stuff, With one hand holding the convenience store nigiri, the girl murmured. Thinking about it, normally it wasn't all that splendid, but compared to the food on the 7th floor, it was good enough. And then when both of us reached out towards the fries, suddenly the girl's hand stopped. Is something wrong? While entering the line of sight, turned toward the whitely fogged windshield. There by the roadside, a number of white flowers could be seen. White flowers soaked by the rain. I don't know whether they were planted by someone or were there naturally, but those flowers seemed familiar. Those were Narcissus,
ナルキソス。
also called daffodils. Those were daffodils. I didn't know too much about plants at all, but daffodils I had at least heard the name before. Also, I recalled that even though the girl was normally speaking only I recalled that even though the girl would normally speak only rarely, she would uncharacteristically join in a conversation on this topic. That's why I went along and continued to speak. And I guess these are also different from those two. Strictly speaking, they're different. They're quite rare things, aren't they? Not particularly. They're everywhere. Everywhere, like where? For me, it wasn't like I put very much meaning in the statement. It was intended simply from the flow of conversation as a natural question. And yet she thought for a moment, then slowly opened her mouth. West. West?
淡路島が有名。
Hey, wait, Awajishima, you mean? Just how far away do you think that is from here? For someone who had only just started driving like me, I couldn't even make a guess. Most likely it was around 700 kilometers, and even using the expressways, I couldn't even begin to estimate the time it would take. First thing I considered our funds, it certainly didn't even seem enough. Even if we stayed on the expressways and used the smaller roads, the cost of gasoline itself was ominous. Look, don't say unreasonable things now. There's no way we could go to such a place, right?
誰が行きたいなんて言ったの？
Eh?
問われたから答えただけ。
With just that answer, the girl once again gazed upon the windshield at those flowers. The glass inside the car, cold from the rain, was fogged white. She cast her gaze upon with even that. It wasn't as if I wanted to go there also. However, it also wasn't as if we had another place to go.
時間の止まった私。
Only increasing my knowledge, simply increasing the number of meaningless values, simply desiring only information from the television screen. Eventually, the reel grew, faded, turned hollow.
でも地図を見るのは
Cars, trains, things that would take me places I liked them. Spreading maps upon the narrow bed, tracing route after route, tracing. Sedans, coupes, convertibles. I also rode on many different kinds of cars. That ever-continuing route 1, I ran on and on upon it. Indigo blue sky and beautiful shoreline. I ran all the way to the places painted in my dreams, gently going around and curved trace by a cape under the burning sunlight, dashing into the brilliant white beach. If I just closed my eyes, I could go anywhere. Scenery that I had never seen before would float before me as I thought about lands that I would never be able to go to. Without any meaning, I simply increased my knowledge. I hollowly I accumulated only yearning. A sky where the rain had let up, January 21st, 2005. Flowing by an amazing speed, high clouds. From the ground, the still damp asphalt gave a unique sha noise. Within all that, as always, we continued driving on, without a destination, simply just driving on. It wasn't like we were headed to the Awajishima that we spoke about last night. For one thing, as the problem before that, we probably didn't have the gasoline money. While pondering about that, I continued driving straight along the unknown road. But where was this, I wonder? Suddenly, I wound up thinking about it. From the start, I wasn't all that good with geography, but all the place names were ones I had never seen before. I've been planning on driving onward in any case, but with the navigation system dead, I knew even less. Before I knew it, I was peering at the signs in the area while I drove. I don't really know. What? No, I was just wondering where this is. The girl spoke to me when I looked around and lightly replied, "Well, most likely, even if I asked her, she wouldn't have known probably."
いるまよ。埼玉県の。
Eh?
次の交差点を右に行けば16号線八王子へ出るわ。
You know? Did you live here before?
別にそんなんじゃないわよ。
That was a surprise. No, instead of surprising, why she knew so much was mysterious. No matter how you looked, she didn't seem the type to get a car and go around. Then maybe from here to that place, I would just steer my, you know the way.
質問の意味がわからない。
Well, you see, without getting on the expressway, we might be able to get there using only the smaller roads, right? Look, the gasoline cost our money might be enough after all.
あなた行きたいの？
No, it's not like I meant that, but
じゃあ聞かないで。
with those final words, the girl once again fell silent. In her usual cold way, she remained staring out the window. I had the feeling that when those eyes were looking at was not the scenery flowing by before her, but a much further place. Those words don't ask from before. Just what did they mean? I wonder. If I had answered that I planned on going, what would she have answered? Without a destination, we simply traveled. From the start, we hadn't had any plans or schedule. Simply, we just hated both the 7th floor and our shallow homes. But for me, at least just for me, it didn't matter what. I probably wanted something to give me direction. January 22nd, 2005. Splash crash. It's cold, isn't it? Indeed. Some beach I didn't know the name of when I noticed we were headed out towards the sea. I had intended to head west, but it seemed that point I would be heading south. Phew. A beach with a pitch black sky and a strongly blowing cold wind. The two of us left the car and stood gazing at the dark sea. As always, the girl looked far away with a downcast air at where the black sky and sea merged in at the horizon. And then after watching the sea for a while, slowly she began walking to the water's edge. Say, what do you think would happen? I don't understand the meaning of your question. Do you think I would die comfortably if I went out into the sea like this? Her back was still turned to me. Words as she continued walking to the water's edge. The third time was the last. There is no fourth. Probably it would come to picking between the 7th floor and home. It seems no one has escaped that. Those were the words the girl once passed to me, and the girl was on her second, and said that she wanted neither home nor the 7th floor. Already it was after she had passed it to me. Already her task was over. That was why I thought it meant that. Who knows? I've never drowned before. Then if right now I were to go into the sea, would you stop me? While speaking, she turned around and looked at my face, placing the moon floating in the pitch black sky to her back. The gaze that was always looking for some faraway place was looking straight at me. I don't know, not until that time. Indeed. And then turning her back to me once again facing the sea, she slowly started walking. Hey you. What? Is it that you want me to stop you? At my words, the girl stopped just a few steps before the breaking waves. The strong wind misted up the spray from the waves striking her feet. If you want me to stop you, I'll stop you. Not particularly. It's not like that. Oh, it's not that. Then I don't have to stop you, right? For that question also, there was no reply. However, the feet that stopped did not go further. That was why I thought I thought that was her reply. A high sky that could only be found in winter. Stained heart-wrenchingly blue with a strong wind that whistled across the elevated rail line. Reflecting that blue sky was the metallic hood of the running silver coupe. I was gripping that steering wheel and the girl sat in her usual way in the passenger seat. Where this was, I don't know, but as a more real problem in moments we were going to run out of gasoline. From the start, we hadn't had much money, but from purchases at the convenience store, our remaining funds were even less now. Now there was only 7,000 yen. Of course, for this card, I didn't know how many liters it took, but I thought we would probably had enough to fill the tank once. It wasn't as if we had a destination or anything, but losing our legs would mean we would be stuck. I'll go get some gas, I see. While speaking, I turned the wheel and headed toward the gas station in front of us. Welcome. Will this be credit card or cash? With cash. Will it be regular or high octane? Regular, high octane? I didn't really understand, of course. When it came to this card, there were lots of things like that I didn't know. But since I had only got my license, I knew very little about this sort of thing in general. Which shall it be? I hesitated to speak while the part-time clerk waited for my answer from the other side of the window. And just when I was about to say it didn't matter, the girl in the passenger seat spoke. Yes, regular. Yes, regular cash full tank. Will that be all right? Yes, please. Yes, certainly. With a cheerful reply, the attendant began to skillfully use the gasoline pump. From the window open from about 10 centimeters came the distasteful smell of gasoline. Say regular is fine for this? At the question, the girl remained silent. Instead, she quietly pointed to the price listing on the pump. Of course, this was the cheaper one. I didn't really know much about this, but I didn't think there was that much difference. And then there was the meter on the gas pump before my eyes reporting the amount used. 25, 26, 27, 28. That digital display was counting up ferociously. Did I screw up? Looking at the numbers, I began to get nervous. Just before I had wound up saying full tank on a whim, but the amount of money we had on hand wasn't all that much. Putting together all that change, it was about 7,000 yen. Of course, I had no idea how large the tank was. If there was enough money, what would happen? Going by the price list shown, I believed we had enough for about 60 liters, but 38, 39, 40, 41. Even now, the meter was counting up without it slowing down. Under normal conditions, it would have been something I would have worried about. But as I continued watching, I grew more and more nervous. Damn it, it's still going. Before I knew it, the words stumbled out. It's okay, it'll stop now. This is a 50 liter. Just as she said, when the meter became 47.48, it stopped. Following that, the sound of a receipt being printed ran out, and once again the part-time clerk came back. Sorry for the wait. It comes to 5,240 yen. Aha, here. From my pocket, I took out and handed over a $5,000 bill with a crumpled up 1,000 bill. Here's your change of 760 yen and your receipt. Thank you very much. Putting the clerk's bright voice behind us, I once again pulled the car out onto the road before us. Once again, the silver coupe ran. With this, I felt the urgent fear of the gas tank to be gone for the moment, and our remaining funds was just about 2,000 yen. I was also worried about that, but I was also curious about what just happened before. Hey, are you? Could it be that you knew a lot about cars? Not particularly. Didn't you just say this was a 50 liter before? Of course, this much might have been a guess or something that was common knowledge. However, previously the girl also knew about the roads. Also nagged by the fact I took out the car registration on the dashboard. You would of course know this car's name, right? Is that a question? Well, you can think of it as a quiz. That's correct, and the specs?
99年式高速ミッション最高出力200馬力
I thought that she would really answer. My eyes couldn't help but follow the words of the registration in my hand as the girl flatly continued speaking.
全長4380全幅1695総排気量 1797cc まだ言うの
No, that's enough. Correct. As I replied, I returned to the registration to its place. Unbelievably, all the specs were exactly as recorded. It was very much something that I didn't think could be memorized. If I asked why someone would, I couldn't begin to imagine. But right before my eyes, the girl answered. Moreover, considering the roads and flowers from before, I could believe that she knew about a wide variety of things. Hey, why do you know so much?
別にあなたより年上だからよ。
With just an answer once again, the girl fell silent, gazing out the window. She didn't give off an air that she would answer any new questions I raised. Older. It really didn't look like it, but those were also the girl's words from before. Name Setsumi, blood type O, those were the words written on her white vinyl bracelet. And that she seemed to be older, that she was a little, and that was the little information I knew of her. When the sun was slowly setting, the silver coupe continued running. Without a destination, without a place it needed to go, just simply moving forward. The issue of gasoline was fine, but the remaining money had mostly disappeared. Even counting the change, it was about 2,000 yen. Thinking in terms of buying meals at convenience stores, it would last about 3 or 4 days. Hey, what should we do from now on? I don't know.
質問の意味がわからない。
I mean, we don't have much money left.
だから
And so the girl was as she always had been. She spoke while bringing the nigiri just bought from the nigiri just bought from the convenience store to her mouth. And also just by continuing to drive like this, without a doubt, the gasoline was being used up. In reality, doing nothing, just staying still might have been better. However, doing nothing, being unable to do anything, just staying still was painful. While thinking that, I kept driving. From previous experience driving on the smaller roads, it was just about 3 days before the gasoline ran out. The remaining 2,000 used to buy food from the convenience store was also 3-4 days probably. Clearly the end of things was coming to sight. Hey you, that place Awajishima, was it? You want to go there? There was no reply, just the usual gazing out the window as always. I might just want to go a bit, maybe. Why? Well, of course, from the start we hadn't dashed out of the 7th floor with goals or plans. That was why for me, going west, east, or wherever it was, it didn't matter. I'm sure any place would have been fun. I just wanted some goal or destination. When the day completely turned into night, I was in some pachinko parlor's parking lot. Oh. Of course, I wasn't planning on making money of pachinko or slots. With this measly 2,000, I knew I didn't stand a chance. However, if it were just 10 or 20,000 yen, it would be easy to steal that much. That was from my previous travels through pachinko parlors, my guess. With just that much, for the moment, it would be fun, and from that, we might even be able to get that Wachishima. That was why I spoke about my plan to get to the girl. How about it? Wanna try? I see, alright. It was what was expected, but I plainly refused. From the start, it wasn't as if I was expecting anything from the girl. It wasn't as if I had sought out to help her. Explaining my plans to her was more like a declaration. Well then, wait a bit. Leaving her in the car, I walked towards the pachinko parlor alone. Inside the unexpectedly large crowded shop, there was a number of machines, ball dispensers, and a fair amount of people. Here and there were also a number of stacked cash boxes. It might be just right. Making that decision, I headed toward the slot corner that was my target. After a while scouting from the aisles, From examining the area, I found one machine. Some middle-aged man who definitely looked like an office worker and stacked 4 boxes by his feet, and above his head had another 2 stacked. Moreover, it was a corner machine, and the neighboring machines were empty. From what I had seen from before, he also didn't seem to have come with friends or acquaintances. The conditions were lined up. Most likely in that state, even if 1 box by his feet were stolen, he wouldn't notice right away. If it was like similar shops, it should be worth some 20,000 yen. If we had just that. I simply waited intentionally for the office worker-like person to head to the restroom. Eventually, about when 30 minutes has passed, finally the man stood up from his seat. Quickly following after, I went to the restroom to make sure. Then in a rush, I quickly returned to the slot machine. Next, while checking the people who were playing the slots and the shop's staff, I slowly approached the machine. Then, in order to avoid suspicion acting perfectly natural, I pulled up a cash box at my feet. At that instant, a tremendous sound raised as the slot coins scattered on the floor. Pulled it up, was the plan. No, certainly I raised it up once with these hands. However, unable to support the weight, I wound up dropping the entire box on the floor. And then all eyes looked over, wondering what caused the loud racket. I thought I heard the sound of voices, felt the presence of people running over. However, those voices were heard from behind me. Already by that time, I was 2 meters in front of the shop's exit. Slam. Pant. Starting the engine in a big rush, I slammed on the gas. Turning the wheel, I hurriedly pulled the car out. At the time, gari, kya, tisk. Maybe because I had driven up onto a curb or something, just that moment I wound up ramming the rear. That gari sound was the nasty sound of the body scraping. However, there wasn't time to worry about that. I drove out onto the road in front of us. Haha, phew. While rubbing my chest, which was almost out of breath, I drove Silver Coupe along the now totally dark road. I was a bit worried about the spot that was hit before, but now getting away from that place had priority. Then, driving about 10 minutes, about when we were totally clear of the pachinko parlor, I stopped the car by some roadside and began inspecting the place that was hit earlier. It's probably nothing major. From the passenger seat, the girl called to me, sounding just a tiny bit worried. While I inspected the damaged area, I answered. Looking at it, the rear bumper was slightly dented and the muffler tip was a bit cracked. With this, there probably wouldn't be a problem driving. Phew. Feeling a relief, I let out a sigh. So close. Immediately, I recalled the events in the pachinko parlor. I failed with just a bit more to go, but if I did well, the next time I thought I could succeed. I figured that even though I hadn't been able to carry the cash box, that was only because I had lifted heavy things in a while. If I were prepared from the start, I could probably manage.
勘違いしてるわね。今のあなたは以前のあなたとは違うはず。
The girl spoke words as if she were seeing clear through me. However, with a weight like that, you shouldn't think of it as being the same. Most likely, what the girl was saying was right. I didn't want to admit it, but the me now was different from me from before. Certainly, with my strength reduced by this much, it was hard to believe I could succeed. Then what should I do? To that question, there came no answer, just quiet gazing at the dark sky beyond the window. That probably was telling me to give up.
心を止めて情報だけを積み重ねる日々。
Days of gazing at maps, closing my eyes, traveling to unknown towns. One day, on a monthly magazine I always bought, my eyes dropped on a photo decorating the back cover. It was a female model wearing a flashy swimsuit, shot at the water's edge with that sort of pose, with the emerald sea I always saw in my dreams. Behind her back, she was smiling. I was sure we were around the same age. With that exceptional style, happy and relaxed, directing a smile at me. I don't think I was particularly envious. For one thing, I didn't have a swimsuit and didn't even have any urge to have one. For me, if I had pajamas, that was enough.
いくつもの季節を白い梅雨空を誰とも言葉を交わす必要もなく過ごした。
That day, first year of middle school in June, the first day I was admitted into the hospital, I remember that I had ordered a swimsuit, recalled the swimsuit from a number of years before. I remember the swimsuit that had lost its debut that day. Taken out of the trunk for the first time in years, a school swimsuit that was still brand new. Taking off my usual pajamas nervously, I put on that blue swimsuit. It was a perfect fit, even though how many years had passed. It fit as if just now I had just ordered it. Towards my finger, the monthly magazine model directed her smiling face at me, smiled with the emerald sea to her back. With that exceptional style, happy and relaxed, directing a smile at me, that was saddening. I didn't think I was particularly envious, however, to be honest, I really might have admired her. Because I knew that it was impossible, I might have yearned for it even more so.
だけど胸の大きな傷跡が諦めろと諭した。生涯の伴侶は目を閉じた世界にしろと諭した。
January 22nd, 2005. When the sun slowly slanted, straightening by the western sky, orange. As always, we continued to drive. What should we do now? Our money was, for the most part, tight.
ねえあなた。
When I was thinking about that, surprisingly, the girl spoke to me.
あなた、お風呂は入れるの？
Right now, outside of long baths, I haven't been told to stop.
そう。私も似たようなもんよ。
What she was saying was probably whether the doctors have stopped me from taking baths or not. Especially for kidney and digestive disorders, where their tubes were used, baths were often banned. Thinking about it that way, at least, the girl probably had a circulatory problem like I did. What, did you want to go take a bath?
悪い。
No, I also want to take one. Even so, financially speaking, stopping at a hostel or hotel was out of the question. Well then, shall we look for a bathhouse someplace?
銭湯。
Something like that we still have the money for.
やっぱり。
What, you're fine? Since that day when we left from the sun floor, 3 days had already passed. Their bathing was done twice a week, and in order to wipe the body each day, there were 2 warm sponge baths. Well, because of the season, we didn't sweat and we were mostly in the cars, so didn't particularly get dirty. But is it that you're embarrassed about the bathhouse and you don't want to go?
別にそんな意味じゃないわよ。
The sun had completely set and a large moon showed its face in the sky. After that, driving for a while, I found a place that looked like a school somewhere. Here might just be right. I stopped the car on the roadside near the entrance. Then I began fishing through the mass of laundry that had been left in the back seat. I was sure there were 2 or 3 towels. So pushing aside the clothes that didn't matter, I took up what felt like a towel. It had the words Shiraishi Construction printed on it. Most likely some marketing thing, as it was a shabby towel. Well, wait a bit. Holding two of the shabby towels, I headed to the school in front of us. Climbing over the closed gate, I peered around the area for a place I was looking for. There it is. After a while, I found the faucet that I was looking for. It was probably there for the gardens. Turning the faucet, the water flowed out strongly, cold enough that it felt like it was slicing through one's body. Then I wet the towels and firmly wrung them out. Sorry for the wait. Here, taking one out of two damp towels I carried, I gave one of them to the girl. Then taking off the sweatshirt I wore on top, I went ahead and started to wipe my body. In the car interior, well warmed from the heater, the feel of the chilly damp towel felt good. You don't have to hold back, wipe your body. It's cold and feels good, you know. Alright. At first, the girl had stayed unmoving with a sense of hesitation, but with that answer, she slowly took her hands to the buttons on her clothes. Floppy dress shirt and jeans. Unlike me, she placed her hands within her clothes and wiped her body that way. Something the matter? Sorry, that's right. Holding the towel in her hand, the girl murmured with her clothes partially off. She made a face with just the slightest bit of reluctance and embarrassment. It was the first time I saw her with that expression. In the cramped car, the two of us faced our heads back to each other. How about it? Feels good, doesn't it? It was just turning totally dark and the interior was dimly lit. The glass right in front of me reflected the image of myself wiping my body, and further past my figure, I reflected the figure of the girl behind my back. And just like me, she had taken off her top and was wiping herself. Okay. Without intending to, I saw her. A large scar on her chest could be seen. Okay. Okay. Most likely they were scars from surgery, but I didn't know the details, but it was larger than mine. Say you, what is it? Is that unusual? From beyond my back, words towards my figure reflected in the glass. January 25th, 2005. Under the cloudy sky, the silver coupe ran on. As always, it continued to run with no destination. Looking back, 3 days has passed. In that span, nothing particularly special had happened. To be really particular, along the way we found a particularly free open-air bath. There wasn't really many people around, so at least we managed to take a bath. Other than that, we were towards the bottom of our money, and once again towards the bottom of our gas tank. Have you gotten a bit tired of it? The two of us, while eating convenience store nigiri, exchanged words. Compared to the food on the 7th floor, it might have been better. But even then, after eating only this for a number of days, it was looking boring. However, even this kind of food, considering our money, would probably end a few more trips to the store. What is this all of a sudden? Now that you say it really has. Most likely the cause was that time we fled from the pachinko parlor a few days ago, where the muffler was hit. I hadn't been worrying about it, but certainly the sound of the car has gotten a bit louder. Well, it probably wasn't going to get in the way of driving. Before that, the problem right before us was gasoline. The meter had been pointing at empty, and we were running like that for 5 minutes. And our money right now amounted to 900 yen. With that, unlike the last time, it was clearly not enough. We were totally ran out of gas. Then there would probably be nothing that we could do. Making a decision, I pulled up to a gas station and moreover looked for a self-service station. Soon I found one and pulled the car to stop at the closest pump of the many lined up. I'll get some gas. But don't get out of the car. There was no reply. However, she probably also understood what that meant. Opening the car's gas cap, I put in the gasoline by imitating others. In the area was one other customer, and in back was a building with vending machines. I could also see that someone had looked like a clerk. Most likely that was where one paid the bill. Looking at the explanatory plate on the wall, it seemed that after filling up, one would take the receipt over there. In that case, we would just drive off and run away. While looking around a quiet gas station, that's what I felt. 23, 24, 25, 26, the numbers on the meter showing the amount of gas pumped. Like before, I thought it was going very slowly. I felt very irritated while waiting for the tank to fill, and then passing 40 liters just when the tank was about to fill. Welcome, the clerk. That seemed to be a part-timer that had been in the building up until now, for some reason ran over here. Ashtray, tire pressure, are they all fine? Yes, they are fine. I see it's cold, so please be careful. And perhaps intended to be a service. The clerk started cleaning the windows, and that was happening. As that was happening, the pump announced the tank was full, and the business-like sound spat out the receipt. Please make your payment over there. Pausing from washing the windows, the clerk pointed at the building from before. Suddenly, I held the receipt, unable to think what to do. I wound up standing still. Is something the matter, sir? No, nothing. For the moment, I went back to inside the car, and then I only started up the engine. What should I do? The part-time clerk was starting to clear out the rear window now. Right now, I just slammed on the accelerator. However, without a doubt, the license plate would be noted down. If there was an investigation, we would easily be caught. However, in order to run here, I made a decision and firmly stepped on the clutch. Then when I switched the gear out of neutral and was about to enter second, here, you can use it. Suddenly the girl took an envelope from inside that. She took out a $10,000 yen bill and held it out to me. You had money? I had been convinced she had none. If that were the case, I wouldn't have just I wouldn't have had to go through all of that trouble until now. Why didn't you say anything?
あなた、聞いた?
No, that's...
聞かれなかったからよ。
Just to answer once again, as always, she faced the window.